Today I'm going for the Platinum Trophy for the Chant, a game that I've never heard of until it went on sale a few years back, then I forgot all about again. But after finishing the game, I realized that I was indeed missing out. Not Game of the Year or anything like that, but definitely a good experience overall. For me to get the Platinum Trophy as efficiently as possible, I needed a minimum of 3 playthroughs, which I know that a lot of trophy hunters hate automatically. And this is because I needed to get 3 different endings that I couldn't just easily cheese by save scumming. This is due to the fact that for me to obtain said endings, I needed certain stats higher than the rest. The stats are the mind, body, and spirit. Depending on what I do in the game and what dialogue options I pick is what I'm progressing stat-wise in the game. There's also a difficulty-related trophy that I needed to do, as well as doing a pacifist run and the speedrun trophy at that, which are already setting some alarm bells for the more casual hunters. I normally run my games blind on my first go around to get my own personalized experience and not through some guide online. To get a more optimized run, unfortunately, I needed to bring up a guide for the collectibles on my first playthrough. This is because I needed to raise my mind stat first, and grabbing all the collectibles actually adds some points to my mind stat only and nothing else. So you can already tell that it was a no-brainer to pair these together.
She's trying to run!
Heh. The game starts off in one of those cliche horror films where they show how it all started. And coming into this game for the first time, I had zero clue on what it was about, until I realized that I'm playing as a pregnant mother and that I had to sacrifice my unborn child to Cthulhu or something. The craziest thing about this is that now that I'm really thinking about it, I don't think I've ever played a game where I'm the cultist. Sure, cultists were around in a couple Lovecraft type games like Call of Cthulhu and Sinking City. Hell, even Silent Hill's main storyline was caused by a bunch of weirdo cultists. It's kind of a refreshing feeling in the weirdest way possible to be in the shoes of a cult member. Well, the prologue ended with the mother trying to escape the cult, where the leader was her own father, which she ended up jumping off a cliff just to escape the ritual. Immediately, my mind thought that the main protagonist is about the unborn child many years later after surviving that tragic event. Just for it to turn out that you're just some random girl with a dark past named Jess. Jess's sister Angie died years back when Jess and her best friend Kim pranked her sister, which resulted in her drowning, which both parties never fully recovered from. After getting a call by Kim inviting Jess to this retreat on a private island, since Jess's therapist wasn't helping her at all with her PTSD, she thought that this might indeed help her out. But the moment she reached said island and seeing her homegirls fit, even the main character knew that there was indeed some cult activity in play here. So going towards the retreat, I was instructed by Kim to mail the letter that Jess had made for her future self as the first part of the program. This is also where I found out real fast that the game chooses for me if I take too long, which was approximately 6 seconds.
Can we talk about this more when we arrive?
Oh my god.
There's no rush. I'll meditate here while you mail the letter.
I didn't have an option to. So hopefully that little mistake didn't mess up my whole run. The Chant's combat mechanics doesn't include firearms, nor does it have your more conventional melee weapons like bats or knives, but instead you get handmade sages and supernatural screaming powers. No, for this game we're going full-blown hippie, as the melee weapons that Jess crafts does have durability, and to stockpile on these means collecting all the possible herbs found on the island. Finally reaching the camp, Jess was introduced to everyone there, including Walmart Jesus, who is not only the leader of this little cult family that we have, but also the child from the prologue that was supposed to be sacrificed to the gods. While everyone went back to their spiritual journey, the only journey I ended up doing was snooping around for some collectibles, as missing one would mean an extra playthrough down the road. As the day passed, everyone gathered together for some group meditation and the cult's special tea. I mean, this wouldn't be a legit cult without it, am I right? Well, it seems that the good shit was too good, as Kim goes mental. Just like that one person in your friend group. Don't lie, there's always that one person. Now it was time to go look for Kim while still under the influence of tripping absolute balls, which resulted in us seeing Angie in fly form, running past a bunch of zombies and a floating alien flower thing. You know, just like hitting the ganja for the first time. And in the process, I ended up finding Kim's personal report chart, where she actually suffered from anger issues. Yeah, she lost her mom. Oh my god, what the fuck? Yeah, that checks out. So what better way to help our possessed best friend come back to her senses than by performing the oldest ritual known to man. Grab her! Oh, what the hell? Why you gotta burn her face like that?
I'm so sorry, Kim.
God damn! Turns out that the tea wasn't drugged after all, and all this happened because Kim flipped out and broke the ritual circle. I guess this answers the mutant powers that we get later on in the game. But to fix the circle, we needed to ask Sunny for help to reverse the ritual that they started.
We need to reverse the ritual we started.
And Sunny got hit with a crazy too. great. We're just chasing everyone down at this point because for some reason the minute they get hit with some Cocoa Puffs, they end up running away. I did find 10 lore notes, which is one of the many collectibles that I'm primarily going for in this playthrough, but there's more of these that I needed to find later on. Finally catching up to Sunny, we can clearly see that he's already in the deep end with his face looking like he just ate a cranberry pie face first. Being the king of insult to injury, Sunny pushes Jess down the stairs and makes pot shots at her dead sister, which is low, even for a possessed Looney Tune.
Now you know how your sister felt when she drowned!
If you think that a human-shaped fly stalking you at every corner, zombie cultists, and a humanoid monster dog thing that looks like they came out of A Quiet Place looks crazy, then you shouldn't be surprised that there are also gigantic frogs that blow up upon death, which I have seen up close. Did I just die? I'm sure maybe fighting these things with a handful of grass is probably not the best idea, but I did end up fighting a new type of weapon where I am now hitting these things with burning sticks. And call it what you want, but all I see here is improvement. After getting blown to bits earlier, I had this brilliant idea of getting another trophy for forcing an enemy to kill their own. Since Kermit's cousins suffer from explosive diarrhea, it was now time to hand them the cheese as I painfully tried to hit one low enough for them to die to another frog's explosion, only for one of them to do it for me anyway. There would be friendly fire. Oh, did he kill his own frog buddy? That's crazy. Sunny was probably one of the longest segments because how far this man ran away from me. At one point, I find him eating something. Is he eating something? Well, I thought he was being himself again for a second until he shoved me to the side and literally told me that nobody loves me. I even ended up opening 15 cabinets. That's how many cabinets I ended up finding since I started chasing this man. Like all chase scenes, it had to end at some point as he then gets cocooned in place by Teemo Alien. But now that I have his prism, which I'm guessing the plan now was just to collect all their stones, which also gave me new mutant powers that even Charles Xavier would start questioning life itself. But after beating this boss fight, Sunny's fate was unfortunately cut short in the most painful way possible. God damn. While still being alive unlike Sunny, I ended up discovering a path hidden behind this waterfall, and conveniently enough we can only go through here after getting Sunny's prism, and inside is a hidden boss fight. A little bit on the chunkier side than the other frog boys I've faced, but nothing different besides that, which also popped me this sweet trophy. Going back to camp and letting them know about the bad news, we now have to go to the lighthouse to control the creatures from there. Accompanying us to said lighthouse is the camp's very own chef Maya. Thankfully she's not crazy like everyone else in here and maybe we can finally get some backup.
I can see him. I can hear him calling for me.
There's nobody there. It's the Gloom lying to you. Don't listen to it. Maya, no, wait!
Oh my god. Well, it was fun while it lasted, I guess. But hey, look at that. We managed to get 25 lore pages at least. I mean, there's still more, but that made up for it. Turns out that Maya hasn't completely gone full psycho yet, so that's good. But in the middle of grabbing the items for the lighthouse, our character is now getting hit with the same cuckoo syndrome. After getting the lighthouse to work, I then had to realign a bunch of spotlights to sync up into the actual lighthouse. For reasons. I wasn't really paying attention on why I needed to do this. So about to wrap this up, which definitely felt like it was a little too easy, the obvious happened and Maya had officially lost her marbles. But this was a pretty satisfying boss fight because it had phases. One for beating Maya to a pulp, and the other is for using the spotlight to burn all these floating flowered tentacle alien looking pizza mosquito things. I actually hate how I could not describe these things to save my life. Well, at least she didn't get as brutal of a death like Sunny did. Reporting back to Hannah with some more bad news, I was more surprised that she wasn't at all suspicious of me for killing the 2 other cult members at this point. But now we have to take Tyler's prism as well, aka off-brand Jesus. I was pretty excited on how this one was about to play out, but I ended up just sneaking into his crib and taking the prism that way. Making our way through the spirit trail is where I found even more lore pickups. Nearing the end of the game, so you'd think this is it, right? Nope, there's still more collectibles. There's always more. This game has a bunch of puzzles, which is always a fun little break from just breaking jaws and smashing heads with nothing more than an incense stick. But there are also a few ones that are required trophy-wise. For this trophy, we needed to successfully make the weed killer on our first try. The puzzles for this game aren't really that difficult compared to any OG survival horror titles that I've played. I mean, Hannah gave us a sheet of paper on how to make said poison, so I just went ahead and took a picture of the instructions and followed the symbols accordingly. Probably not on the same level as Walter White or anything, but at least mine was all organic.
Look, Jess, the plants are dissolving. The path is clear now. Hannah, you've been around for a while.
Let's go, trophy. These puzzle type trophies actually came back to back, but this time I had no clues or anything. As a matter of fact, I literally had no clue. I didn't even know that this was a puzzle to begin with. I don't get to say this much, but I managed to pop this trophy first try without even knowing of the dangers that came if I chose the wrong bridge. Apparently out of the 9 janky looking bridges here, only 3 of them will actually hold my weight. And for this trophy, I got across the rafters without falling. I mean, actually, it didn't even dawn at me at the time on why there were multiple platforms, but I was just focused on where these these collectibles were at and that I kind of just zoned out for a second. And the trophy popped super late too, so I literally had no idea what it was about until the current editing of this video. But this is pretty much the final stretch, which means that the collectibles were also about to come to an end. One of them was for finding all the reels, finding and beating up all the mandicores. While some of these are required for story progression, some are optional and very much hidden, so I would count these things as collectibles as well. On my way to grab the last of the collectibles and some peace of mind, I was then greeted with the game's final boss, the cult leader that was seen in the prologue. And it turns out he also has powers like me, except he was like Jean Grey from the X-Men, which is way cooler than the toothpicks I spawned from the ground. I was kind of hoping that this dude would have put something new, but the walking corpse didn't really put up much of a fight. You'd think that he'd use the telekinesis that he literally just used on Hannah on us as well, but all he does is do this slow punch as he steps on the jar of piss I keep pouring on the ground. I mean, there's that and spawning his zombie cult minions, which did help him a little bit, I guess. After that epic boss fight, Tyler shows up as he demands the mask to get handed over to him, which he then gets absorbed by his grandfather in the process. Damn, so Tyler is dead now too, huh? Anyways, my hopes are up again as there was a phase 2 for this boss fight. His final phase was underwhelming. While he occasionally shoots out beams from his mask now, inheriting Cyclops' mutant powers if Cyclops was a decrepit cultist zombie come to life. Well, his cult minions were obviously there as well to make my life as inconvenient as possible, since I have to get rid of them first so I can safely knock over his giant prism thing, which rendered him powerless, which is not really the best weakness to have. And after the last prism was knocked over, which my child could have done by the way, the mask blows up on his face as the zombie minions absorb this man back into the gloom. I thought the game would conclude at this point, but I was still fighting mini bosses that proved to be way more interesting than the final guy, so part of me was still skeptical. But hey, I managed to finally get my last trophy, so at least now I was done worrying about missing those and having to do another full playthrough. Trophy. Bookworm. It's all the collectibles. Yeah. So now that we have the mask and all of the prisms together, we managed to save Kim and finally were able to destroy the gloom. But I knew there had to be a twist. And the twist was none other than Hannah herself, as she effortlessly stopped both Jess and Kim with the funniest means possible.
Instead of trying to stop it, we can all be together. Hannah, it's the gloom. You can't bring them back. Don't do it, Hannah, you'll—
Perfect!
Damn!
I'm sorry.
And finally reaching the actual final boss, which I thought was going to be a letdown, turned out to be something I would have never imagined it being.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. That's creepy as hell. Rendered powerless since we don't have the prisms anymore, I was forced to deal with a boss fight the good old-fashioned way, with a fistful of burning grass, a pinch of salt, and a dream. After finally putting an end to the ritual and literally every cultist other than Kim succumbing to the gloom, the game was finally over. Until a random DLC whirlpool appeared out of nowhere, which I'll get to later on in this video. But for now, I celebrate finishing my first run with all the collectibles done and for successfully maxing out the mind stat for said ending.
Jess.
It's been a long time.
I've missed you.
How have you been, Kim?
But now it's time for the second playthrough. For this playthrough, I needed to max out the body stat. For the mind stat, it helped increase my sanity level, which does help in certain events. But for the body stat, it was all about the health bar, which means the beefier we are, the more punishment we can take. And with this in mind, I started this run going for the hardest difficulty, which is called the Magister difficulty. To have the bare minimum run possible, I also decided to go for the pacifist run. And since the plan was to just run past everything anyways, I was also gunning for the speedrun trophy for beating the game in 4 hours or less. Funny enough, from what I thought was going to be the hardest challenge, actually made the majority of the game so much easier, since not engaging in any combat whatsoever was easier than engaging in them. Who knew? But there were parts where I couldn't scurry away like the rat that I was, like this elevator segment while chasing Sonny down. For the pacifist trophy, I can't kill any of the cultists, but that was easier said than done, since the elevator moved slower than a crippled snail. The plan was to absolutely abuse the time dilation ability like it was crack, and just pray that the elevator would eventually show itself. Alas, doing the speedrun trophy, I ended up not looking around for any additional resources, which means I was only able to use this ability once. With no no other choice, the only thing left to do was to dodge for dear life and not get pinned down and end up getting beat up by the whole town in this one room. Even after waiting for the right time to use my one ability and slow everyone down, the elevator still managed to move slower than the slow motion itself. And this isn't even the only part where I couldn't do anything but to cross my fingers, clench my butt cheeks, and pray. Because over at the lighthouse, where I had to line up all the spotlights, was also a tricky spot to pull off without actually killing any of the cultists. In here, it's almost required for me to have my time ability ready, and even with the ability, I was still struggling to line these suckers up, as the duration of the effect wasn't long enough for me to slowly aim these things on where they needed to face. So I just applied brute force and relied on my health bar to hold off long enough until I finished the puzzle so I could run away. And there's also a matter of the boss fights. Thankfully, these fights don't count towards the pacifist trophy, since there wasn't really a way to do this without having them catch these smoky hands. One of the final boss fights was very dangerous to do, however. Since he kept spawning his zombie minions, I had to beat him without accidentally killing anyone else. For this, I just had to once again use the time ability when everyone was really far away from this man, so I could go apeshit with my burning twigs. His second phase was a completely different story, however, as I ran into the same problem I had with the light tower. Except this time, there were even more cult members stopping me from knocking over the prisms. There were no new plans to be made, as it always and will forever be me abusing the time ability and praying that it slows them down long enough for me to knock these things over. The first two I did get really lucky on, but on the third prism is where my lucky streak came to a complete halt, as no matter what I did, the minions always found a way to slap me and my progress to the ground, which I eventually got lasered straight to heaven. After knocking down the last prism, the light at the end of the tunnel drew closer, just like the creepy ass faces of the final boss fight. I never had issues with this on my first playthrough, but with the harder difficulty, for some reason I kept getting pushed into the spikes. The worst part is that I was under a lot of pressure because I still needed to finish the game in less than 4 hours. And with more spikes going through my sternum than the blood pumping from my now dead heart, panic was slowly setting in. But I was just seconds away from getting the biggest trophy mean hit of my life. So I locked the fudge in and timed all of my dodges just right, threw some salt with a splash of piss like a drunk person after their 11th shot of fireball, and that was the hardest challenge done. That's it. Body ending. Let's go. Well, she managed to get away or something? What happened?
Be in peace, Angie.
Groovy. Calm waters. Body has your highest stat. So, I guess body is a bad ending because Angie is still there. There we go. Complete the game in 4 hours or less. And complete the game without killing any cultists. And complete the game on Magister difficulty. Hell yeah. Step 3 just became a whole lot easier now that I just needed to beat the game on easy, as I was missing one last ending, and that's for maxing out our spirit stat. But this game came with a free story DLC, so I decided to bump this down to step 4 so I could end this game with that sweet platypop. This DLC actually follows the mine ending, which pretty much solidifies it as the canon ending for the game. So, huge hole shows up in the middle of the ocean, we fall to our, what it seemed to be, inevitable death, and then boom. We wake up face first on some fleshy floor, which is always the best feeling to wake up to, I suppose. After getting bodied on the last fight, we find the leader of the cult trapped back where he was originally at, wanting to get out. And this DLC is actually extremely short, and extremely easy to finish. Except for the fact that I hadn't played this game since I finished my last ending, which did cause me to get smoked a couple times. Dog, I forgot how to play this game. The DLC does include a couple new weapons, which means we get more combat related trophies. Like the new throwable called the Plasma Bolt. Really good means for crowd control, and simultaneously hitting 4 enemies with it is the first trophy I needed. Along with a new melee weapon called the Iridescent Blade, or the cultist version of a lightsaber. I guess we'll just call it that. Unlike the lightsaber, this thing grants charges per hit and will eventually do a little explosion for that bonus dopamine hit.
Oh, that was pretty late, but we take those.
There is one trophy that I needed to be careful of, and this is for upgrading my prism abilities 12 times without dying. Upon death, I lose all my upgrades, which means I have to traverse back into the previous areas and do the upgrade again. It's not as bad as a permadeath run or anything like that, but more around the lines of being called a permanent inconvenience run more than anything.
Oh, there we go. Inline.
The game doesn't really show where the upgrades are located, so if you're as blind as me, you'd probably miss one too. Like, I didn't even know what was going on at the time, so the best strategy I came up with was to just go to a random spot and hope to catch the last upgrade I was missing. Oh yeah, I forgot to explain the story and all that, right? So there's a chalkboard here with instructions on how to craft all the items I needed to kill the main Maw so we could escape. A bunch of areas are locked by other Maw creatures as well, and the only way to pass through them is to craft a specific thing, shove it into their mouth, and unironically, to rinse and repeat the process.
There you go. Root canal.
Behind the final Maw is Anton's father, which I'm guessing is the cause of the gloom. He also starts summoning a bunch of enemies, which is also the boss fight for this DLC, which is kind of like just a glorified horde mode, which he'll eventually perish for some reason. Maybe he just runs out of juice, I don't really know. But once Anton's father is done for, we get sucked back into the main area because that makes sense, and then thrown topside where we end up just waking up from what seemed to be a nightmare. Everything goes back to normal now as the two just go back home until the game reveals the plot twist that Anton is now back on the land of the living, which means that a sequel is strongly hinted at. But all the DLC trophies were done, so now the only thing missing is finishing the game again, but this time maxing out the spirit stat, which gives us the worst possible ending that the game can offer.
That's it. There's the platinum. Super short game, by the way. Finished the DLC and started on a brand new save.
It's me. You did it. It's gone. It's all gone.
I killed Angie.
Hey, wake up. Are you okay?
Oh no.
I think so. What happened?
That tea didn't sit well with you.
Thank God. Oh, thank God. Kim, how long have I been out?
Kim? Oh, it's about to start.
You, little rabbit,
Oh damn.
prepare yourself. Tonight, we are one with the universe.
Damn, she went back in time. She went back in time. You can never escape the cult. Trophy. A good game. If you want to join the grind live, I always stream my games on Twitch, both games that I make YouTube videos for or just for the sake of getting the platinum trophy or mastering a game on retro achievements. I stream all of it there. Of course, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any new videos in the future. And lastly, always remember to keep it real, but not too real, because that's just boring. And I hope everyone has a phenomenal day. Trophy.